I'd like to take this time to go around the room and introduce the other board members. I'll start on my far left.
No.
No.
Oh. Patty Reed, City of Pinellas Park.
Dan Saraki, Mayor of the City of Oldsmar.
Josh Schulman, City of St. Petersburg.
Vince Cox, Pinellas County.
Morning, I'm Brad Miller, CEO of PSTA.
Good morning. Well, thank you all very much. We'd now like to open it up to public comment. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak on anything that is not already on the agenda? Hearing none, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. Alrighty, let's, item 3A, approve the March 2024 minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the March 2020 minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Look at us go. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
And that's unanimous. Okay. Clearwater Transit Center Construction Management Contract. This morning we have a number of contractual action items. Al Burns, would you like to introduce how they are structured and then kick us off with our first item regarding the Clearwater Transit Center? Good morning, Al.
Good morning, Chair Gal. Good morning, committee members. You're exactly correct. We have 6 different contractual items in your agenda this morning for recommendation. All of them are important in meeting PSTA's goals. I want to point out that we've ordered that by action type, the first 2 action items on Clearwater Transit. The second one on liquid waste removal are brand new contracts we competitively procured. The third and fourth actions this morning are both time extensions to existing contracts for bus operator uniforms and training services. And then finally, the last 2 contracts are new contracts for maintenance supplies and trash services that we chose to piggyback off of consortiums or public contracts from other agencies. I hope this makes sense to everyone. Now, moving forward with the first construction management services for the Clearwater Transit Center, I'd like to explain the procurement process we completed, and then I'll pass it over to my colleague Abhishek Dayal to explain the scope of the new contract. Clear as mud. So action item 3B, program management / construction management services for the Clearwater Transit Center project. I'm going to go over the procurement, and then, like I said previously, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Dayal. On February, we issued an RFQ for program management, construction management for the Clearwater Transit Center consulting services. It was posted on our website, and it was posted and adhered to in accordance with our policies and procedures, and particularly Section 287055 or the CCNA Act, Consultants Competitive Negotiation Act, which is a Florida law. On March 12th, we received 4 proposals, and the evaluation criteria is outlined in your packet, understanding the project, proposed work, etc. On March 25th, we had the evaluation committee. And in your package, you'll see how each firm ranked: HDR, Skanska, WSP, and Collier. It was determined that HDR was the most of the competitive firms and was invited to negotiate with the authority, and we're done negotiating. After a responsibility check, it was determined that HDR Incorporated has the capacity to perform the work and therefore is eligible for award. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Abhishek Dayal, to cover the scope.
Thank you, Al. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the Finance Committee. I'm Abhishek Dayal, Director of Project Management. And here again, this month, to talk about our #1 priority project, which is the Clearwater Transit Center. And this time, I am seeking your approval for program management, construction management services with HDR Inc. for a 3-year contract for a not-to-exceed amount of $2.3 million. Now, as you all recall, I was here at the board meeting last month to talk about why we're doing this project. And at the risk of repeating some of that information, I'd still like to emphasize why it's so important, why this project is so important for the agency, and why we're doing this. And it all goes back to our current facility in downtown Clearwater, which is the Park Street Terminal. This was a major transit center, or this is a major transit center in North Pinellas County, built in 1982, so it was built before the ADA laws were in effect, and so it's not ADA compliant. It's also over capacity. At the time, there were 8 bus bays, and there are 15 bus routes that actually converge to this facility. As you can imagine, half of those buses have to park outside. Pouring rain, people have to cross the street to get to their bus, get in and out of their buses. So it's over capacity. We've had significant roofing issues at this facility. You can see some of the images of what it looks like. Our facilities team does a really good job in making sure it's safe for our passengers, but it still results in a costly annual maintenance for the upkeep. And then the roof clearance also prevents some of our buses that were purchased after 2017 to be able to safely go in and out of this facility. So I know I mentioned this before in the last month's information item, but this is very important to just again emphasize why we're doing this project. So the PMCM services, like I mentioned at the last month's meeting, which was for on-call services, this is again providing for part-time, full-time staff who can help manage this project. And that starts with design oversight, construction oversight. It also provides for more specialty needs, such as cost estimating, negotiating with the contractor on pricing, labor, materials, schedule oversight. They also perform risk assessments for us to understand where the risks are for the projects, for different elements of the project. And then more importantly, and I'll talk a little bit more in detail about, is dealing with several stakeholders. And there are several related to this project. You've seen this slide before, and I love to showcase it again and again on how we successfully deployed this PMCM model for our Sunrunner project. And the whole team worked really collaboratively with different stakeholders during design, during construction, to make sure that it's a successful, under budget opening for this project. They worked really tirelessly with several stakeholders, whether it's the cities, FDOT, utility companies, developers, to really help us successfully deliver this project to the community. I'm not going to go through this on the Clearwater Transit Center. I've shown this slide many, many times, but the only thing I wanted to point out here is it's a multimodal facility. It's different from Park Street Terminal. It's more how we operate our services today in terms of technology for fueling our buses, in terms of how we give information to our passengers, how passengers interact with our customer service staff. So it's reflective, the design is reflective of that, and not essentially replacing Park Street Terminal with how it's operated today. So that's kind of what I wanted to just mention here on this slide. So in terms of the coordination, the level of coordination that we will be asking our team to work on is starting off with the city of Clearwater, where they will be working very extensively with the city on their City Hall project, which is just north of us. We will have CSX tracks to the west side, and you can kind of see the green, kind of the bike lanes where the CSX tracks are. That's where we will be working with CSX Transportation to make sure that we are able to construct the facility and they can operate safely on their tracks. And there's another item right after this for your action that I'll talk more about. We have a day spa located at the corner of Southeast Avenue and Court Street, so we'll be working pretty extensively with them, particularly during construction. And then Duke Energy is looking to install and relocate their poles, the electrical poles, all along Myrtle Avenue into our site. So we'll be working pretty extensively with them on the design as well as during construction. And then finally, 2 of the 4 sides of the site are surrounded by FDOT buildings. So we'll be working with them on traffic management, access permits, and so on and so forth. So you can see here, pretty much on all sides, we'll be working with several stakeholders as the project moves into design and construction. And one thing I just wanted to mention, based on Al's report on the procurement, we recognize that. And so as part of the procurement evaluation team, we brought in the city representative, we brought in county representative, as well as FDOT to help us select a project management, construction management firm that could address all those coordination needs. So I just wanted to point that out as well. So this is something you've seen previously. So HDR, that would be the recommended project management and construction management team, will be overseeing CDM Smith, who's our design firm, as well as our future construction contractor that will be procuring next year. All of these services are all paid for and accounted for in our project budget, so I'm not asking our finance team for any funds. This is simply a request for contract approval to allow HDR to work with the teams so that we can move the project forward. So really what I'm requesting is an approval of a 3-year contract with HDR on project management and construction management services for Clearwater Trend Center for not to exceed amount of $2.3 million. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions? Vince? Josh?
Okay, I just had a question, Abhishek, about the ADA compliance of what we're currently, the Park Street Terminal. Well, give me an example of where we're not complying with ADA.
Yeah, good question. So some of the ramps that lead up from the sidewalk to the terminal, those are not ADA compliant. The slopes are a little too steep. And we'd really like to have more crosswalks as well leading up to the terminal for safer pedestrian
Right.
movements. That was, we tried to make it as safe as possible, but it's not fully compliant in the sense that we normally do with our facilities.
Okay, I just, that would concern me.
Yeah, it is concerning.
We still have a couple of years. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, my questions, so I understand the need for this, and I have no questions or comments about that, and I appreciate the City of Clearwater, Pinellas County staff, and FDOT also weighing in on the selection. And Al, I hate to do this, but my issue comes in with the evaluation criteria that was used and not seeing a matrix of the scores to know how they scored, right? So I trust that all of these people that weighed in did a diligent job, but in my capacity to provide oversight, all I have is just this one and award them a $2.3 million contract. And I think that there needs to be a little bit more of an awareness of what's actually going into those scores, so we can make sure that they align with, as a board, with what we consider important. So I think ultimately my conclusion would probably still be HDR. I have no reason to not select that. I just don't feel that there's enough information presented here in the procurement process to provide that yes vote today.
Thank you for the feedback, Commissioner Shulman, and my team back there. I'm sure we're all taking notes, and whatever I could do to make it clearer for the committee, I'll do that. I'm looking at the detail of where every evaluation committee member scored. I can put X's in place of, in lieu of names, and show you exactly in each category how they scored. Whatever flavor that you would, with Brad's approval.
I mean, and certainly that would be possible. What I was thinking was just listing all the different criteria that led to like HDR getting 842.
Right, and there are times when we've had those matrices presented.
Yeah.
Where here's all the, here are the categories, here's the scores, here's the, but, as board members, we all have ideas of what criteria may be more important and less important for us as we're making this, as we're deliberating on whether to award those contracts. And
Yes,
just
sir.
seeing a total raw score doesn't allow us to have that sort of reflection.
I'll go back immediately and look at previous action items that we presented and that had a table that you're referring to, and I'll have that done before the planning meeting is over.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll have it in the.
And I'll give it to, and I'll follow the appropriate protocol and giving it to Rachel and getting it uploaded and all that.
And just as a side, all the evaluation team members, they felt that HDR was really the best.
And that's why I even said, I don't know if I'm going to want to change to a different vendor based on that. But in being asked to approve something for a contract, regardless of the size, but in particular, something that's over a couple of $1 million, to say, well, they just said it was okay, and then it had the highest score, it doesn't provide the oversight that I was hoping for or expecting to be able to say, okay, we've looked at these different criteria and I'm comfortable with where they rank versus something else. Or as we've done in the past, maybe there were some questions. And those questions led to, well, can we ask HDR or whoever the vendor was to do something a little different because we would like a little bit more in this particular area than not, right? So we're just missing that opportunity in this conversation. So that's just the reservation I have.
Understand?
I just have a comment, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Abhishek, I want to just say that I remember when you started the Sunrunner, and this, that was an amazing project from day one to the end, and this reminds me of that, and I'm looking forward to watching you complete this project again. Just thank you for all your hard work. That's all I wanted to say, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Patty, any questions? No. All right. Yeah, I just have just a few, and it's more actually just for public purposes as well. Why can't we do this in-house? Why are we farming this out?
A good question. We could do this in-house. We'd have to bring in more staff. We'd have to hire more people put them on our payroll. And we just felt that it wasn't very efficient in doing that because it's a one project need. So once that project is complete, it doesn't give us that flexibility to kind of go with the ebbs and flows of staffing needs. So that's why we felt that this model was more cost effective for us in terms of not only availability, but also like the expertise that we need, depending on the phase of the project we're in, whether it's design or construction.
And thank you for that, because I think it's important for the public to know that for $2.3 million, yeah, we can't be experts in everything, especially what it takes for this project. And so the idea that it's more effective and it's actually efficient to actually hire consultants that do this. And while I do actually echo some of my colleagues' concerns over the sausage, I don't know that it would change anyway to acknowledge that, right, HDR was the chosen consultant for the Sunrunner. So we know how they operate. So not only did they get the lowest score, but we have that prior relationship. So we know how they think, they know how they operate, we know how they function, and it's important to have that for the price of this overall project. It is important. So if there aren't any other questions, I will certainly entertain.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
And that motion passes 4 to 1. Thank you. Okay, we will move on to the preliminary engineering agreement with CSX and Clearwater Transit Center project. Abhishek will now walk us through the agreement with CSX for the Clearwater Transit Center project.
Yes, again.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
It's been so long.
No left. Mr. Chair, again, for the record, I'm Abhishek Dayal, Director of Project Management, and this item relates back to the discussion we were having about the stakeholders for the Clearwater Transit Center. One of the key stakeholders is going to be CSX Transportation, and they have tracks, live tracks on the west side of the facility, and we will be working very extensively with CSX to make sure that they can operate their trains while we're doing our construction. And so CSX, obviously being a railroad company, they operate under FRA regulations. They have certain requirements in terms of how far you can be from their right-of-way. We are going to be in there right away as part of the project. So one of the first steps in engaging with CSX is to have a preliminary engineering agreement with them, where they will review our plans, recommend safety improvements, and have certain requirements put in as part of the construction contract. So this agreement in front of you is an approved contract by CSX, where we would provide them with $21,000, a not to exceed amount, where they would employ consultants to review the design plans and provide some recommendations in terms of their safe operations while the construction is going on. So the agreement is in your packet, and happy to take any questions on that.
Vince?
Yeah, Abhishek, do we know how many movements they have, train movements, like on a daily basis?
As far as I know, I think there's one movement, in one direction.
Uh-huh.
So they move it back and forth. They don't have a set schedule.
Uh-huh.
So that's what we know. So
Okay,
far.
I'm just curious, thank you.
Anything else? Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Just a quick question. How did they arrive at $21,000?
They,
Are we, it's a not to exceed amounts, are we then being billed directly under this for services they provide?
the way it works is we cut them a check for that.
Okay.
And then they draw it down based on the number of hours their staff needs to review it. Whatever is left over, they bill it right back, or they credit it right back to us.
Okay, and are they using, you said that they were gonna hire consultants. Are they hiring consultants? Are they using in-house consultants or
They're-
employees or combination?
They typically hire consultants for this kind of work. So they have hired a consultant for that, for looking at the design plans from their operational perspective. And that's what these funds will be.
Like somebody local, Tampa Bay area?
Someone local.
Okay, and do we know if the rates that they're charging for those consultants, are those within reason? How's that all set?
Yes, so they basically provide us with an invoice on how many hours their consultant staff have used to review those design plans. And then basically they use that as a basis to draw down those funds.
I understand, but the rate that the consultants are charging per hour, right? So 3 hours times something.
Right.
Do we know that the rate, the hourly rate is appropriate? Or do we have a schedule of those in advance?
I don't have that in right now, but I can certainly ask that question on, what hourly rate they usually charge. But I don't have that information right now.
Okay, and the $21,000 they determined based on experience and having done this before as to what
Yes.
they think it will be.
Yes. They've done that typically with other communities also. I know City of Clearwater has also used them, or had to work with them to review their design plans. So they've done that with other communities locally.
Okay.
Pretty much all along, any development or anything, has the exact same contract that they have signed. Largo, Clearwater, maybe Dunedin, anything that's along the tracks.
Well, and that makes sense. I just, again, was interested in finding out how are these funds gonna flow through, right? If it's not to exceed, put another way, it's gonna be $21,000, right? So, I mean, because I guess another question could be the experience of other municipalities. How often has money come back in these agreements, or is there always, if we don't necessarily have a schedule of what those rates are in advance, it's not a huge amount of money, but it was at least worth asking the question.
Well, and sometimes also depends on the plans itself. If those
Right.
plans keep changing, then their staff have to spend more time reviewing those changed plans.
Understood. Don't keep changing the plans. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
In Oldsmar, we had a situation with the railroad that CSX, we had to remove 2 roadways to get 1 new roadway to cross the railroad tracks. And when we started this plan, we found out that there was a major gas line there that we had no idea, there was no record of it. It took forever to move that gas line. It ended up taking like another year to finally get that moved. So do we have a time frame on this? Is it gonna be a year, do you know, for them to do their study?
So we will work pretty collaboratively on them, with them. In fact, we've already sent them some of our concept plans, so they're at least familiar with what they're looking at, or what they will be looking at. So some of the conversations have already started. So basically, this will just memorialize what work what extents they'll be looking at, in terms of utilities, in terms of their infrastructure. They've got arms that are right on our property, so they'll be looking at that. We are looking at that too, how to avoid those types of situations. So we are already having those conversations just to get ahead of those types of issues.
Well,
That could
that-
cause delay and it could be costly.
I know, that was it, it ended up being a lot more than the original. And the last question is our budget, it's in our budget for this?
It is.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any questions?
Nope, I'm good, thank you.
And again, I don't really have any questions, I guess, one of the comment would be is I'm surprised that the residents of South St. Pete would allow an active live rail of any kind in Pinellas, so I'm happy to see them do something active. Anyway, yeah, I was being snarky.
Yeah, leave us alone, man.
I say it runs once a day,
Uh,
right?
I am causing trouble. So do I have a motion? Recommend approval.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Good job, as always.
I like training.
Moving on. Henry, Director of Maintenance, and Al Burns will take us through this item for a contract for liquid waste removal. Henry, good morning, sir.
Good morning, everyone. So, in the normal course of vehicle maintenance activities, we generate a lot of used fluid. So what goes in a vehicle has to come out of it, and that has to be disposed of properly per EPA requirements. And from a facility standpoint, all of our drains or anything that is connected to a sanitary main has a boil water separator before the discharge point. Just basically think of big underground vaults where water mixed with oil collects, and then we have to have those pumped off. So Al is going to walk you through the procurement for a contractor for the pickup, removal, and proper disposal of our liquid waste.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Al Burns again. Pretty routine procurement. And earlier this month, we released an IFB in accordance with all of our procurement policies and procedures. We received 2 bids. We received a bid from AquaClean Environmental Company LLC and Safety Clean Systems Incorporated. Brad has made an excellent suggestion that the table that's in Granicus right now doesn't really spell out, and I'm looking at you, I'm kind of leaning towards you, Commissioner Schulman. Doesn't really spell out
This is for you.
I'm all for it.
the difference between the 332,000 and the 67,450. So I handed you, because I didn't get it completed until late last night, and Rachel's gonna update Granicus with the new table. But in the table, below inside that, in the handout that I gave you, I wanted to illustrate the difference in the bids, because a person might look at the bottom line number of 302 and say, why didn't you go with the 80,000? And when you look at the table that I handed out to you, there's several items that Safety Clean did not bid on. Safety Clean did not bid on. Now, I asked my staff to find out why they didn't bid on those items, because I was interested. And they said that they felt with having submitted several bids in the area, that they could not be financially competitive with the AquaCleans of the world. Additionally, I researched and saw that we received 5 bids last time, and we received 2 this time. There wasn't, we reached out, there wasn't really any answer that, hey, we just elected not to bid on that. So we did go out for competition, and we sent, staff sent direct notices to everyone that submitted last time. AquaClean Environmental Company LLC bid on all categories, and as I said before, they provided the lowest bid. Additionally, I'd like to add that AquaClean was the incumbent and has had the contract since 2019, and they've been providing us the same service since 2015. But we have gone out for competition when the contract term expires. We did a responsibility check on AquaClean, and it was determined they have the capacity to perform the work and therefore are eligible for an award. The fiscal impact of this, it comes from operating funds, so it's budgeted for. Once again, as Henry said, the recommendation is approve a 2-year contract with 3 one-year options with AquaClean Environmental Company LLC for liquid waste removal for a total contract amount not to exceed $350,000, and authorize the CEO to exercise the 3 one-year options. If there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm just trying, thank you, and I appreciate the additional detail. That really helps draw a stark comparison between the two. But I just had a question about the reconciliation between what's in Granicus for AquaClean and what's on the paper that you just provided. So the base term 117.7 on Granicus, I'm guessing that is for the 2-year total, the first 2 years total. So it's half that for each year, or some lower amount the first year and inflation adjusted slightly for the second year. Is that correct?
I have to look to verify that, but I'm gonna say yes.
Okay. So the version on that was posted earlier has a total of 332,650,
I'm looking at that, and I just,
and we're at 302,200. So I'm not sure if the one that was handwritten or printed didn't include inflation adjustments in those other years and was just taking the base year and multiplying that out. But they don't match.
I agree.
Okay.
And I don't have an answer for you at this moment. It'd take me all about 30 seconds to get the answer.
Okay. Well, I mean, in general, I'm fine moving forward, but I think that it's, at least for the board packet, reconciling those and making sure that what's presented is just what's going to be part of that either consent agenda or whatnot makes sense.
Yes, sir, and I'm sure staff did the math on it. I'm looking at it and I see what you're saying. I just have to make sure that I go through and.
I'm all for you taking the time to make sure it's right, so that's, no worries. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Just have a question of Henry. Yeah, Henry, our electric buses keep coming online each year, so some of these items would be reduced, like the, would it not, the sludge, antifreeze, oil filter, so on and so forth?
Well, no vehicle generates sludge, but I know what you're saying. Yes, there is a significant reduction, or will be, of motor oils, gear oils, coolant type material.
Okay, so that's like factored in with this, or?
We've made our projections based off when new BEVs will come out.
Okay, very well, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Al, I have 2 questions. I remember this 2 years ago, but is it the same company we're using again this year, and is the bid higher or lower? I don't remember.
Same company as last year, same company as before, and let me look at the action item from last time that we did this.
For some reason, I thought it was a lot lower, but I can't, wish I could remember everything.
And me too, sir. It was 153,000 for 5 years last time.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Benny? I really don't have anything. does bother me out, I'll tell you the difference on what's in Granicus and what's here, just because of the public.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I want to make sure I heard what you
Yeah, I'm
said.
just concerned that, I'm just making the comment of the concern over what's on Granicus versus what was just handed to us. We've already talked about it, so I don't wanna
Okay.
hammer it. I'm just concerned because that's what the public is seeing right now.
And once again, Mr. Chair, it'll be double checked, and when we update Granicus, you could rest assured that it'll be what we're gonna enter into a contract.
If there aren't any other questions, I will certainly entertain a motion.
Move approval?
We have a first,
Second.
we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And it passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to contract extensions for uniforms. Greg Bracken, Director of Transportation, and is it Mr. Burns or Al Burns? I don't know.
It's Mr. Albert.
Mr.
Al.
Al Burns. Mr. Al Burns will take us through the contract extension for uniforms.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, again, Al Burns, and before I turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Bracken, the next two action items are time extensions. They're not have no fiscal impact whatsoever. We're just asking for the extension of time on them. And we're already have existing contracts that the board approved, the dollar amount and the time. We're just asking for more time on the next two action items. With that, for the background on the uniforms, I'll turn it over to Greg.
Good morning, everybody. We are continuously trying to improve our images out there on the street, and one of the main things that people see on us every day is our uniforms of our frontline employees. Like Al said, we have been starting the process of changing our look, and it's going to take a little bit longer time. As you know, we've changed our color scheme on our buses. Our uniforms are going to coincide with that color scheme change, and we're looking to add some clarity to our operators and retire some of our stuff that's been in existence for a long time to bring our style and our look up to the modern day eras. So we have about 400 operators that we'll be doing, and we have customer service, and my supervisors are all under this contract with North American Fire Equipment and Companies. So they have been working with us for quite a few years, from what I understand, since I've only been here 2, and they've been very, very diligent with us and have done a good job for us. So even during the COVID times when supplies were limited, they did a very good job of keeping us up to speed. So.
Just a little bit of background on the procurement. We went out for bid, we went out for RFP in April of 2019 for these services. And like Greg said, NAFICO, that's what we call them, are doing a great job. At the end of the action item that you approved was for $500,000 for the uniforms. And in accordance with the contract provisions, I'm bringing this before you to ask for an extension. The actual contract doesn't expire until June of this year. But we wanted to take our time on the procurement. Greg has set up a committee that consists of union bargaining member units, and we just wanted to make sure that he wanted to make sure that he takes his time and involves all stakeholders at every level. All the requirements in the existing contract stay the same, and from a financial perspective, there's still more than enough dollars on the existing contract, more than $100,000 still on the existing contract. So that's the reason I'm not coming and asking for any monies to be added to the contract. So the recommendation I bring before you, Mr. Chair, is approve a 7-month extension with North American Fire Equipment Company for a revised contract end date of January 31st, 2025. If there's any questions, Greg and I will be more than happy to answer them.
Any questions? Oh,
I think we're good.
Well, there's no money spent, so we're just
I make a
asking
motion
for
to
time.
approve.
All right, look at that.
Second.
Fantastic. We have a first and a second. All in favor of?
Aye.
I want a uniform.
You're wearing it.
Opposed? I mean, you need to include socks. You need to include socks in there. All right, we have a first and second, and everybody approved, any no's on this? Unanimously, very good. Okay, St. Pete College, training contract extension. Trish Collins, Director of Human Resources, and Mr. Al Burns are here to talk about a contract extension with St. Pete College. Trish?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Well, similar to the last item, I'm here to ask for no money. What we're requesting is
Like
a short, that's a great item to bring. We're requesting a short extension to the St. Petersburg College contract that we currently have in place so that they can continue delivering the curriculum for our Leadership PSTA program, our internal year-long leadership development program. Our contract with them is actually ending in May, but for the continuity of the program, we want to ensure that they're able to deliver all of the content and curriculum to this year's class. We do have an RFP that's in progress right now, so we're selecting vendors to enter into new contracts with. St. Pete College very well, I hope, will bid and very well may continue to be offered a new contract, but just in case, whatever happens with the RFP, we wanted to ensure that we could have continuity for this year's Leadership PSTA class. So I'll turn it over to Al if there's anything else to add for this request.
Mr. Chair, Al Burns, Director of Procurement. So we issued an RFP in 2019 for these, for employee training services, and they were issued in compliance with all the PSTA's policies and procedures. I'd just like to elaborate off of what Trish said. We're currently under RFP right now, and it is for not only the leadership PSTA class, but other training needs that the agency has as well. Microsoft training, even though we use LinkedIn training, we also have more extensive training that is being bid out right now for customer service, for supervisor training. So it's a little bit more extensive. And Trish really did an excellent. Trish and Tamika did an excellent job on putting together the new solicitation. I'm not being rude. We've had 70 downloads of the current solicitation that's out on the street. And I think we have about 8 proposals that are in process of being submitted 10 proposals that are in process of being submitted right now. So we have competition, and later on this, in a few months, we'll be coming back to you with a recommendation. From a fiscal impact, like Trish said, we're not asking for any money. We're just asking for more time for continuity. We're asking for the end of September, and that's when the Leadership PSTA class traditionally graduates. So this gives the new company enough time, if it's a new company, to start building the curriculum for the next year's class. So the recommendation that I bring before you, Mr. Chair, is and I just wanted to say that there's more than enough money remaining on the existing contract. We have about $30,530 left, and that is enough to carry us through the end of this contractual obligation. The recommendation I bring before you is approval of a 4-month extension with St. Petersburg College Board of Trustees for a revised contract end date of September 30th, 2024. If there's any questions, Trish or I would be more than happy to answer them.
Any questions?
I just have a comment. Oh, you go first, Josh.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I do appreciate you anticipating my question on this and the last action item of how much money was left in the contract and will it take us through to the end. So I do appreciate the anticipatory comments that you made.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I just have one comment. I really appreciate Brad inviting, you constantly invite the board to the luncheon for the Leadership PSTA. I think it's an amazing opportunity for the employees here at PSTA. Every time I go to that luncheon, the vibe, the motivation from the classmates is just, it's inspiring. That's the word I want to use, inspiring. So I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimously.
Thank you, everyone.
We like
Good job.
spending no money. This is wonderful.
Debbie's over there, she's getting right now.
Sold.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, Mr. Libasek and Mr. Al Burns will now talk about a contract for maintenance supplies. Henry, good morning again, sir.
I'm not gonna ask for money. All right, so again, in normal maintenance operations, and a lot of this item is sucked up by the fleet maintenance department, so it would be great if when you change parts, that everything you need comes with that part. It doesn't, right? There's all these other supplies and materials that go along to make sure that that part gets put on properly or just maintain a vehicle. That's your, as you can see in your packet, nuts and bolts, there's WD-40, EV Blaster, there's thread sealants. I mean, I could probably rattle off hundreds of different products that we use out there. That's what a MRO is, a maintenance, repair, and operations supply. Al will take you through a procurement to ask for recommended approval with Fastenal.
Thank you, Henry. Mr. Chair, Al Burns, Director of Procurement again. In the beginning of the Finance Committee, you asked me, I gave you a breakdown of what we're doing and how we categorize. The next two action items that we're bringing before you, I said something along the lines that we are either using consortium, or piggybacking off of another agency. In this instance, with this action item, we're using a consortium contract by the name of Sourcewell. And Sourcewell is basically, they do all the shopping and is recognized by NIGP and all the professional procurement people around the country. So we're using the Sourcewell contract, which Fastenal was included. And the contract initial term is until November 30th of 2022 and ends in 2026. The utilization of an existing contract, it helps with staff time, to be very, very honest. We know it's been competed in our solicitation files. We have, who all responded, who the evaluation committee, the bid table, all those things necessary to bring it to you for approval. The fiscal impact of it, these items have been budgeted and are part of the approved FY25 maintenance budget. And I'd like to add that it's an unusual schedule because, like Henry said, it's over 200 items and it consists of nuts and bolts. But we were able to reach out to Sourcewell and reach out to Fastenal, and we have the schedule, and we feel pretty confident of what we're bringing before you will last the same as the previous contract has. The recommendation that we're bringing before you is recommend approval of a 2-year contract for MRO and industrial supplies with Fastenal for a total contract value not to exceed $500,000. Just you might look and say, Al, this is a short term of only 2 years. We prefer to piggyback off of a state contract. The current contract we're piggybacking off of is from the state of Florida, but that contract is about to expire. So I didn't want to do a 5-year. I only limited this to 2 years in anticipation of the state going out, and Fastenal probably will be a vendor on the state list. And at the end of the 2 years are over, I'll piggyback off of the state of Florida contract versus a Sourcewell contract. So if there's once again, the recommendation is recommend approval of a 2-year contract for MRO and industrial supplies with Fastenal for a 2-year contract value not to exceed $500,000. If there's any questions, Henry and I are more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Al. Yes.
Deb, where's the money coming from?
From our operating budget, it's there.
Okay, we have it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I always make sure the buses stay running, so
I
does
agree.
Al.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Al. So just so I make sure that I understand, so Sourcewell did the original procurement.
Yes,
And Fastenal was one of the companies that bid on the original procurement that we're now taking part in.
yes, sir.
Okay, and so in our files, we have all of Sourcewell's procurement process that they went through
Yes, sir.
to understand, okay. And was Fastenal the only provider, or did we then, under Sourcewell's contract, get to choose between 3 or 4 different providers?
That's a good,
Under
that's,
Sourcewell, I mean, or was it just, this is the provider that Sourcewell has for these items, right? So
a great question. I mean, awesome question, to be perfectly honest with you. There are more than one vendors that we could have selected. For example, Grainger's on there, and we all know who Grainger is, right? They're one of the providers that we could have chosen. However, Henry and his team, and I'm sure Henry could go into more detail, they're happy with Fastenal. And there's a lot of infrastructure. Remember when we took the tour for that, and there were these vending machines that had all these parts? There's vending machines back there and software that's involved. So it's not just an easy transition from, let's say, Fastenal to Al Burns Nuts and Bolts Company. Henry, you want to elaborate a little bit on that, sir?
No, you captured that well. It takes a lot of time to set up that type of stuff. And from a costing standpoint, amongst the Graingers and the Worths and the other folks, they're very competitive. I mean, they're basically selling the same stuff. So it's really about having the history and the relationship with Fastenal, and of course with our automated inventory management systems out there. It takes a long time to set up, and it probably takes an even longer time during a transition.
okay.
Great question.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So we have a current contract with Fastenal, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that separate than this one?
Yes, ma'am. This is a brand-new contract.
So we still have the Fastenal contract that we did up in June 2024.
Yes, great question. When that contract expires, then we'll start this new one.
Okay.
What I didn't want to happen, ma'am, just elaborate a little bit if I can, didn't want to have a gap.
Right.
And,
So
you know,
when it says Fastenal, it's not, that's the same thing, it's just we're going under, you know what I'm saying?
so, same company, everything, but we're just, instead of, we're just picking a different contracting mechanism, if that makes sense. We're going to piggyback off the Sourcewell contract.
Okay.
Great question, ma'am.
Thanks.
One other quick question.
Yes, sir.
The mayor asked about whether this was covered in the budget. So do we have, is it a $250,000 item? I realize you don't know exactly how many parts you're gonna need or use in any given year, but,
I can look up or get back to you on what's budgeted every year. Let me just see. It's in division.
60, it's in shop supplies. That's where it falls. So there is a way that we can project. Typically, in fleet vehicle maintenance, it's about, if you factor 10% of your total parts budget, because that's mostly what the supplies are for. So when you do that math for our annual parts budget, it's about $26,000 a year. It's almost like when you take your car in for service and you get the repair bill, and they always have something on the bottom called shop supplies, and there's usually a percentage, because they're not gonna itemize every rag, every other thing. So that's kind of been around in the industry for a lot of years, is 10% of what your parts budget is. We're doing that, we're doing a little bit better than that 10%. I think it's about 7.5%, 6 and 7. So that's kind of where these projections come from.
Okay.
In terms to drive the budget, that Debbie will, so that we budget every year.
And your write-up says $20,000 a month.
About $20,000 a month is what we average.
okay. And actually, thank you, Brad, for pointing out that it does say approximately $20,000 per month, which I skipped over when reading, so that,
Rookie.
I'll catch on one of these days. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get up to speed with you, sir. Thank you.
9-year rookie.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve.
All right, do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
My favorite item is next.
I refuse to hear that.
Oh, that trash talk from Dan. My goodness, all right, the duo of Mr. Lubisick and Mr. Al Burns will now talk about the contract for trash recycling services. Henry.
So, Commissioner Saraki, this has nothing to do with trash out in the county.
Oh,
This
okay,
is-
good.
It's all home generated right here on campus. That is what this contract is for. We'll be coming back to you later on during the summer with that
Okay.
exciting RFP results from that. Yeah, so this is a contract to provide refuse removal services for just here, stuff that's generated on campus. Again, fleet maintenance and just the maintenance department is the biggest contributor to that, obviously with our activities out there. I can tell you that what can be diverted, what can be recycled, such as your cardboard, obviously metals go, plastics, anything that can be diverted off to recycling is done so, and then everything else that cannot be recycled is put into disposal dumpsters, which is hauled off to the landfill. Mr. Burns will take you through the procurement method to approve a contractor, recommend approval.
So last one, Mr. Chair. And thank you, committee members, for your time this morning. This one right here, we're piggybacking off of a contract. The last one was from a consortium. This one is we're piggybacking off from a city. And that's the city of North Reddington Beach. We work with Waste Pro and their largest competitor in the region, which is Waste Management, to see what our options were, and we knew that we could piggyback off of various contracts. This was to streamline the procurement process versus us going out for a full and open solicitation. It was decided that the best option was Waste Pro from a financial perspective, and that we stay with them. However, once again, excuse the redundancy, we decided to utilize the contract with the city of North Reddington Beach. We've done a responsibility check on Waste Pro again, and they have the capacity to perform the work and is eligible for award. The fiscal impact of this is funded by operating funds. And I'm looking at you, Commissioner Schulman. The same information that we have on the Sourcewell contract, the RFP, the contract, all of those things we have in our procurement files. And I'd like to add, in talking with Brad, we're talking with Alan yesterday and Brad, we're sending all those documents as well over to BMO, and they review those documents, our legal counsel, and they review those documents as well. The fiscal impact of this is funded by operating funds. And the recommendation, again, Mr. Chair, is approve a 30-month contract with 2 one-year options for refuse or trash and recycling services with Waste Pro for a total contract amount not to exceed $300,000. Now, Mr. Chair, I know Brad was kind of, and the team were kind of asking me, Al, how did we get 30 months instead of what we traditionally do? And I see nods of the head. So it's a 3-year base with 2-year options for trash with the city of North Reddington Beach. And and what we're trying to do is when this contract expires, the current one that we're under, we'll pick it up, and that's where they'll be at in their contract. So it kind of looks kind of weird, and it is, but I didn't want to put 2.7 or something like that. I just said I'll do 30 months, and then I'll explain to you why that term. If there are any questions, Henry or I will be more than happy to answer them.
Any questions?
Gotta throw away the trash.
You gotta get rid of it. All right, do I have any recommendations?
Make a move for approval?
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
A first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Unanimously.
Thank you, Al.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Alan.
much. All good.
And Henry?
Thank you.
2.7 would have been fun to talk about. Diane.
I'm
Diane,
asking for money.
I'd love to see you, hate the topic. Our final action item is for a claim settlement. Diane Randall, Director of Risk Management, is here to talk about this item.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm here this morning to seek recommendation of approval for a claim settlement with Tina Valencourt in the amount of $50,000. This incident occurred on February 13th, 2023. Ms. Valencourt was a pedestrian. The bus was turning right. She was entering a active white light crosswalk when our bus struck her. As a result of the incident, she sustained injuries to both legs and her left arm and incurred medical expenses of approximately $42,000. The fiscal impact on this is that this settlement is within the established claim file reserve, and settling this claim will end our exposure for all future expenses related to it. So again, I'm seeking a recommendation of approval for the claim settlement in the amount of $50,000 with Tina Valencourt. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That item passes unanimously.
Is she related to Vicky Valencourt?
Might be.
Too late for questions. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
It's report time.
Wonderful.
Julie's favorite time, I know. Julie Lucas, Director of Accounting, will walk us through the monthly financial report for February of 2024.
Good morning, I'm Julie Lucas, Director of Accounting. Looking at February, we finished with a $2.9 million deficit, which was $272,000 favorable to our budgeted deficit. Revenue is $238,000 favorable to budget, driven by investment income and state grants. Expenses are $34,000 favorable to budget, led by most areas being favorable except for salaries and fringes. And in February, we have our payouts, so that's why the hit to salary and fringes there. Turning to February year-to-date, we finished with a $45.7 million net surplus, which was $1.2 million favorable to our budgeted surplus. Revenue is $46,000 favorable to budget, with increased investment income netting with our decreased property tax revenue, so we're not feeling the hit that much there. Expenses are $1.2 million favorable to budget, with most areas, again, being favorable except for salaries, supplies, and some miscellaneous expenses. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You shared that the salaries expense was 2.3% over budget for February due to payouts.
February is the month where we do our vacation payouts.
Okay.
And with our year-to-date, with our year-end ending in September, we are making accruals in September for things that are not going to happen until January and February, and we try to get as close as we can on that. So some of that can be from normal activities that were going on in February, but some of it is also attributed to the fact that we did have our vacation accrual in that, vacation payout in that month.
Could I just, if you
Of
don't mind?
course.
When we talk about a vacation payout, what we do here at PSTA is you have, if you have enough vacation hours in your bank, you can't keep carrying that forward and forward and keep earning the percent increases we get every year. So what we're doing is helping to save money in the long run by paying out anything over, it's 100.
Anything over 160 hours gets paid out at a current rate, not a future rate, so.
So that's what it is, and like Julie said, we try to guesstimate what that will be at that point in time. So it does ultimately save us money in the long run through this program.
Well, and I'm fine with that. What I wasn't sure of, when we talk about payouts, it could be any number of accrued things. So I'm not paying attention to what's happening each month, it could be, payments to pensions or to the state for other, I mean, so there's any number of things. When you said payouts, I wasn't sure what that was.
I apologize for that.
No worries, that's why we ask questions, just to make sure. Because then the follow-up question was gonna be, I realize vacation payouts, you don't always know what people are gonna end up banking with, so that is why it's harder to budget versus some of these others that are a percentage of pay that might get paid out to another age. So, I understand that was vacations, answer the questions. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Anybody else? Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, it's a good use. All right. PSTA contracts, Debbie Leo, CFO. Isn't that CFO of the year? Is that still?
That was last year,
Is
wasn't
that
it?
last year?
Yeah,
Every year, I agree with
It's
Al.
every year.
it's just like birthdays, they happen
Every year.
Thank you.
All right, and she will take us through the PSTA contract.
All
Debbie?
right, well, they're in your packet, and I have to say, one of the first items on your list, which is David Nelson, which was the portion that relates to the original Sunrunner. That'll be going away, but of course, we have savings, so it'll probably still stay on there for a little bit. We've also put in here, Commissioner Schulman, on the very last column, the word anticipated average spend. So thank you for
appreciate
that improvement to this. I don't know if there's any questions, but just there for your perusal.
Very good. Any questions?
Nope.
Well, see, that's what you get from the CFO of the year.
There you go.
No questions.
Diane
Wonderful.
Randall never gets any questions, which aggravates Al.
All right. And is there any other business before this committee? All right, hearing none, seeing none. Oh, no, what a surprise.
So,
Yes, Josh, questions?
I'm both pleased and hurt at the same time. So, no, I just wanted to share, so I received an email yesterday afternoon that I was nominated for an award from Little Free Libraries for making an exceptionally positive impact on their community. So, I don't know if I've won, but it's our Little Free Library at the PSTA stop at 38th and 4th that has been nominated for having a positive impact in the community. And so I'm hoping that ideally, if it wins, that will also be something we can use to help promote putting more of these in. So, and I just got it yesterday afternoon, so I thought I'd share that.
Good job.
Congratulations, well done.
Missy is the one who installed it in her team, so.
What is the organization?
It's Little Free Libraries. It's the Todd H. Bowl Award for Outstanding Achievement. Todd Bowl was the founder of Little Free Libraries, and so it's their.
Have we stuffed about?
They decide internally. I don't believe there is a ballot box.
Just for the record, just a month ago, when we were putting together our audit and the financial report, I tried to get Debbie to agree to put in the statistical section, Little Free Libraries.
One.
She said no.
Yeah.
But if we get two, she's like.
Well, if we get two, then it's 100% increase from 1 to 2. So
We have
that.
a positive history to be able to do that.
Right. Fair enough. So that was it.
She's just heartless. Oh, my goodness. Anything else for the good of the order?
Great job, Mr. Chair.
All right, well, do we have a motion to adjourn? Let's do this. All right, gavel me out, sir. The next meeting is May 15th at 9 a.m. See you then. Thank you, guys, very much.
Not as good as the other piece.
Nice work there, Al.
I know it's part of our job.